Is your business suffering due to supply chain issues? Overwhelmed by the prospect of manufacturing? You don't need to have all your eggs in one basket. Burnett International can help you expand your sourcing network and more. Today's sponsor has successfully guided businesses like yours through all stages of product development, sourcing, and manufacturing for nearly 40 years. Stay tuned for the mid-show segment and learn how Burnett International can help you, too.
Welcome to episode 213 of the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals where you can strengthen your creative business, stay up to date on industry news, and build connections within our supportive trade association. Check it out at craftindustyalliance.org. Today on the show, we are talking about building a community through knitting and crochet with my guest, Jewell Washington. Jewell is the Chicago-based maker and entrepreneurial designer of North Knits. She learned to knit in college and launched North Knits in 2014. Jewell pursues simple living through her passion for DIY, pattern design, stacking her yarn shelf, and providing business and entrepreneurial advice to fellow crafters. As the founder of Our Maker Life, a global maker movement, she's connected more than 120,000 fellow fiber creatives in the knit, crochet, and yarn industry via maker meetups, published books, and social media. She enjoys traveling and sweet cuddles with her kitten, Dewey. Jewell Washington, welcome.
Hi, Abby. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to talk with you. One of the reasons is because you are going to be the keynote speaker at H&H Americas, which is incredibly exciting. We will get to that as we are talking, but that is one of the reasons that I'm so excited to have you on the show. And let's start a little bit back and find out where you grew up and what your household was like when you were a kid.
Yes, I am so excited to be a keynote speaker. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, just rewinding back. So I am born, or I was born in Denver, Colorado. But I actually grew up in South Carolina. So I moved to South Carolina with my mom and my sisters when I was 5 years old. So, the South is home for me. And I grew up in a really small town and eventually moved to a slightly bigger town in South Carolina for high school. And really fell in love with writing and journalism, and really realized that I could use it as a career path in high school. And so I eventually ended up going to the University of South Carolina, where I studied journalism and mass communications. And ironically, but not ironically, at the same time, came across the art of knitting, and so taught myself how to knit. And it's just really awesome how at the same time I was learning about fiber and craft and knitting, it was also really helping me with my mental wellness and my emotional health, and really just being able to get through college doing all of the things.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. 100%. So were you into art and things like that also when you were a kid, or was that something you kind of discovered about yourself later, like in the college years?
Yeah, it was definitely something that I discovered later in my college years. I can remember when I first sort of got into the community and industry, I would hear all these beautiful stories, from fellow makers about how their grandparents or their parents taught them how to knit or how to crochet. And I can remember having a little bit of imposter syndrome because I didn't really know much of anything. I do recall one memory where my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, she actually is an amazing crocheter. So she does know how to crochet. And it was right around the time when I was in high school my grandmother would make my mom and my sisters and I these beautiful chevron. I later realized they was chevron stitch, but she would make these beautiful chevron Afghan blankets for us. And she would make them in our school colors, or if there was a cool color that my mom wanted. And so, I did grow up with these beautiful Afghans always laid on the back of our couches. And my grandmother would make full-on Afghan size blankets in like a day or two. And then she would ship them to us, to the Carolinas from Colorado, where she lives. And one time she sent a blanket and had in cursive written down the entire pattern for it. And so it was in all of like, it was all written in crochet terminology and in her cursive handwriting. And I just remember at the time thinking like, what is this? And my mother was like, write back to your grandmother. And I was like, well, I don't really know what to say because I'm not sure what that was.
That's so interesting how that's like imprinted in your memory so you had a little taste through her of sort of the meaning of handmade and also even the design instructions. So interesting. So how did you learn to knit in college? Was there a roommate who, was knitting and you saw that and asked to learn, or did you find it online, or how did you learn to knit?
Yeah, it's actually really exciting. It's just very interesting how sort of life has so much irony, so much beautiful irony to it. But I actually learned, or first came into knitting through a meetup, basically. So a little bit of irony there. I was actually a resident advisor in my dorm, which was a social community. So there was a lot of activities that you were required to be involved in order to live in the residential college, is what it's called, on USC campus. And so they would have gardening, you could pick up piano, you could pick up drawing, all different types of things. So I was a resident advisor, and I was I can remember at times being just stressed out and overwhelmed because I was, juggling, a full course load worth of classes, and then having to be supportive for a dorm full of 300 students. And one of my fellow RAs, he actually had organized a knit night. His mother knew how to knit. So he said, yeah, Jewell, I know you've been really stressed. And so you could kind of like knock out two birds with one stone of like going to an event as an RA and also maybe get something like stress relieving from this. He's like, cause I knit with my mom every now and then, and it's actually a good stress reliever. So I went to the knit night, but she actually didn't show us how to knit there. She just only showed how to cast on. And she really just sort of explained like the purpose of knitting needles and the purpose of yarn and how it can be, an anxiety de-stressor. So I just remember casting on like 50 stitches. And in that moment, it was like an hour knit night or something like that. I just felt so peaceful. Like my mind just completely was like not on things that were stressing me out. And it just seemed fun. And I really enjoyed doing something with my hands because I wasn't a kid that grew up like doing a lot of drawing or, I wasn't like an artsy creative kid other than, just writing was sort of my outlet. But it was so nice to be able to do something crafty with my hands. And so I learned how to cast on. And that very next day, I remember I spent like what little money I had in my bank account. I like just cashed it out at Joann's.
That's amazing.
So I drove down to Joann, the fiber store, and because they didn't really have a lot of local yarn stores that I was familiar with in Columbia, South Carolina is where I lived. And so I just went to Joann's, and that was my first time there. And I purchased a ton of yarn, and I got knitting needles, and I just spent days practicing that, the cast on technique. And then I wanted to learn garter stitch. So I YouTubed how to do garter stitch. And then I practiced that. And so I would make scarves for my mom and my sister. And I pretty much did that all the way through the remainder of college. It was about my junior year And I pretty much just made scarves the entire time and only garter stitch. Like I wouldn't like go out of that lane. But yeah, that's how I fell into it.
I think that's a really common story around going to Joann or Michael's. Yes. And just getting, maybe the yarn that's like the cheapest or whatever, not really understanding anything about fiber content, but just wanting to have the materials to start. And I think that it's really important to recognize the role that those sort of big box mainstream players have in our industry, because that's the first place you go when you don't have anything and don't know yet, whether you even like doing this,
Right. So, exactly. Yeah. And it's full circle, obviously, because now I get to have these amazing meetup events with others so that they can, create their own craft story, and also have this great pleasure to have Joann be a part of our event. So it's just like super amazing of how my story has started with them in many ways and has continued on.
100%. And I also love that you learned in community, and how nice that is to learn with a group in that way and to be introduced to it that way. So after you graduated from the University of South Carolina with this degree in journalism and loving journalism, did you move to Chicago right after that for grad school, or was there some in-between time?
Yeah, there was some in-between time because I knew that I wanted to go to graduate school, but I really hadn't decided what I was going to study. And in journalism, at least at the time, it was a little bit better to go ahead and just work in the field instead of going into, get your master's for journalism. So I actually worked in political reporting for a TV news station, sort of like a post-grad apprenticeship for a few years. So I did stay in South Carolina for a couple of years. And then one of my best friends moved here to Chicago and went to an amazing university here, Roosevelt University, which, again, it had this really interesting like social community aspect to the university, very, very focused on social justice, and also had a great journalism program. So after a few years, basically, of working in the field, I wanted to go back into school. And my friend encouraged me to move to Chicago. And I was like, well, I heard it was cold there. Like, why did you go there? And she was like, oh, no, it's not that cold. It's not that cold. It'll be fine. So she was like, once I did move here, she was like, yeah, I totally lied to you. It's going to be very cold, very cold. You will need that yarn. I ended up moving to Chicago just on blind trust. I just drove here and attended school here, and also got back into residential life. And so I kind of went the next level up. Instead of a resident advisor, I was a graduate hall coordinator. I was editor-in-chief of my school newspaper, and I just thought it was very natural of just, the other thing that I did in school and undergrad that kept me very calm and focused was yarn and my knitting. So I'm like, it makes so much more sense here. It is freezing. And so I picked it back up, and it really actually took off as far as how people were much more interested in having a scarf for me. So I would spend quite a bit of time in grad school making scarves in our school colors for other people. And people were like, oh, I'll pay you for it. And I'm like, oh, no. You don't have to pay me for it. Just wear it. Because my mom wouldn't always wear my scarves in like 100-degree weather in South Carolina. I'm like, so if I just see you around campus, I just want to see you wearing it. But yeah, that's how I transitioned from South Carolina to Chicago.
Okay. And so now that you have your credential, and by the way, it's so interesting how much you're a community builder and community leader through all of these, undergrad and in graduate school. Like, it just seems like you're really drawn to doing that, which is really interesting. But after you finished your graduate school program, did you work in the journalism field again, go back and get a job in that field?
I did. So I went to Roosevelt University with a focus on print journalism, where in undergrad it was focused on broadcast. So I did get a little bit of diversity there, also with the focus on political reporting via editing. So grad school was definitely very interesting. It went by so fast, but it was such an amazing time. And one of the things that makes Roosevelt a really, really, really good school here in Illinois and in the Midwest is so many people who actually work in the industry actually come back to the university as professors and things like that. So I actually had two wonderful opportunities. One was working for the Chicago Tribune for their opinion editorial board, sort of during the tail end of my time in grad school and shortly after I got out. So that was an amazing experience. And from there, I also got to work for an affiliate radio station here with National Public Radio, the Chicago news affiliate. So I did political reporting actually on their copy desk for NPR WBEZ and got to do some great adventures running around the city and interviewing people. And it just always went like, twofold of folding into my passion for fiber arts, because I just saw so many people, unfortunately on the streets and who were cold and who I just thought, it just took me back to my grandmother of like how they could so benefit from like a beautiful warm Afghan blanket or a beautiful scarf or something like that, because I was always out and, doing reporting and traveling around the city. And I also had a great opportunity to work for a business news magazine here. I actually picked up, video production and copy editing there and did that for a couple years and have since transferred over a little bit more onto the marketing side. And obviously doing all of the things.
Yeah, so I'd love to talk a little bit about your day job now, and then we can kind of loop back to the launch of North Knits. So you do, it sounds like you do still have a day job and it's in marketing. So you kind of took your journalism skills and put them in that context. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like for you now.
Yeah, so currently I'm a marketing coordinator for an architectural and engineering firm, and I did sort of fall into it after through recommendations of the last newspaper that I worked for. So yeah, I definitely still get to apply a lot of my writing and editing and actually social media skills. But, the advent and the nature of the journalism industry has just radically changed in the last 5 years through technology and social media. And so just transferred into that, sort of fell into the marketing side of things and have worked for a couple of engineering firms where we get to do like really cool projects. So, but like I said, mostly it's me doing a lot of writing, a lot of editing of the content, which I thought it was really cool because they're like, well, we're not the best writers, we're engineers. And I'm like, well, I have, I don't really have at all any engineering experience, but much like reporting, it's such a varied topic of things that you have to research and then learn how to tell a story and write around that. So they're like, you help us, we'll help you.
Yeah.
We can tell you what we need written, and then you can write it well and form a story around it. So, that's my day job, and I've just gotten so much great experience, really, on the mass communications peg of my degree. So, yeah, I can remember, especially once I really started to indulge in the fiber arts and craft industry as a business, feeling very, again, timid and a little bit of imposter syndrome and like sort of a pressure of like, well, should I leave, one thing for another? And over the last 5 years or so have just really gotten a lot of confidence to celebrate my hard work and what I went to school for, and also realize just how instrumental my skills are for not only just the career path that I have, but, how I run my businesses through my passions.
Yeah,
so it's
absolutely.
been nice to, come to grips with like, I can do both, and I don't have to feel pressure that I have to do one or the other.
That's amazing. And I want to talk a little bit about North Knits. So this is a pattern company that you launched in 2014. And can you describe kind of what it's about and how you decided that you should have this presence in the yarn world?
Yes. So I really just felt a calling when I was in grad school. Again, I was knitting scarves for my classmates and people who I was staying on campus with. And again, seeing a lot of homelessness here in Chicago and wanted to do something. And so I started knitting scarves and I would just hand them out on the streets. And I wanted to do more. There is interestingly, a magazine here called Streetwise, and you can donate to their magazine and to their mission. So I was just at the time talking with one of my friends, and he was like, "Hey, you're always doing that knitting thing, and you want to do something, to give back." In the city. So maybe, you're always on Etsy. Why don't you just, open one of those Etsy shops and then sell your stuff that way? He's like, you should just sell it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try it. And so that's really where I got the idea to try and run a business around my knitwear. So I actually came up with the name. It's an acronym and it has a spiritual tie for me. So it's called North Knits, but it's an acronym for needing, obeying, rejoicing, and thanking Him. So it's my tie to just a higher spirit and universe, because again, I always feel like I go to that place of peace and calm and serenity when I'm knitting. And I wanted to have the name of my shop be representative of that. And then I also thought it was kind of cool because it speaks to cold, north.
True.
I hope people don't get it confused and think I live like up north instead of north. But or get it confused with North Face or something like that. But all of my family and friends, they were actually very supportive of the name, because I was like, should I do it like Jewell's Cozy Scarves or something? They're like, no, I like North Knits. So I opened my Etsy shop, and 10% of all of the scarf sales that I had, I would donate it to Streetwise. And so I got explosive response from people when I was knitting or wearing my scarves, like at work, after I graduated and things like that, and started my Instagram page right around the same time, and just got so much interest and really just found out like how expansive and beautiful the industry and the community is online, particularly through social media. So when I first started, I was making finished pieces. Again, like scarves were my lane. I was like, I can do a garter stitch scarf for you, but also started to get like custom requests, which really pushed me out of my comfort zone to try and learn new stitches and experiment with different types of yarns that I had never explored. Really started to get into the world of yarn weights and tensions and shaping and things like that. And so that's how North Knits came to be.
Is your business suffering due to supply chain issues?
Isn't everyone's?
It's time to diversify your sourcing network.
Do I have time for that?
By expanding your sourcing network with Burnett International, our network becomes your network, eliminating years' worth of research, risk-taking, and relationship building. Diversifying your sourcing network on a global scale saves you time and money. By supporting multiple suppliers, you are creating healthy economic competition and taking comfort in knowing that when one channel of the supply chain falls short, another option is available to keep your product moving. Are you overwhelmed by the prospect of manufacturing? Has your business outgrown your home office or studio? Are you stopping yourself from hiring because you think you're not quite there yet?
I don't know where to start, who to trust, and to be honest, I simply can't afford to take a big risk.
By partnering with family-owned Burnett International, we have the expertise to assess where your business is currently positioned within the craft and textile industries, and to identify which steps are needed to prepare for the growth that your business is capable of. As fellow members of Craft Industry Alliance, we are offering you a free business diagnostic session. You can get started right now by signing up at burnettintl.com/promo or email us at fabricteam@burnettintl.com. Burnett International will be there to scale your business, minimize obstacles that stunt growth like financing and logistics, and maximize your time without adding overhead. With decades of experience, Burnett International will evaluate your sourcing network for reliability, sustainability, and diversity. Burnett International will connect the dots between suppliers, manufacturers, and logistics, delivering your designs right to your front door. Let's make a plan today. We will convert sourcing and mill communication hours, getting you back to the heart of your business and creativity. Sign up for your free session now at burnettintl.com/promo. BERNETINTL.com/promo. The Burnett team is excited to get to know you and make you a part of our global network. Let's make a plan today.
Do you remember the first time that you went to a local yarn shop and kind of saw that side of the industry?
It was the very first day I moved to Chicago. I was so timid to, pick up and leave home from South Carolina. It seemed so far away. Again, I had never, ever been to Chicago. So I was Googling online, where I would live, but also if there were yarn stores there. And I remember seeing a local yarn store online, and I said, if I get to Chicago, if I actually am able to do this, that's the first place I'm going to. So when I actually got here, I went to Target, and then I went to the local yarn store, and it was an amazing experience. I remember being so excited because they had classes. So it brought me back to that community aspect again, of, support of where you could learn and grow your skills. So it was actually the first day that I moved here to Chicago, and again, cashed out my checking for the yarn when I was worth it.
That's funny. Okay. And so not too long after you launched North Knits, maybe 2 years later, you founded this community, which is called Our Maker Life, with several other people. It was a collaboration at the start. And how did you meet them and come to this idea that we should create a community?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a little probably esoteric, but it's the truth. Journalism for so long, since I was 17 years old, was such a passion, and is still in many ways such a passion of mine. I've always loved to write, but I guess I started to feel a calling that it wasn't going to be my forever path. I initially wanted to move to New York and go work for a big TV station, and I just doors never really opened in that area, and so I don't know. I just kind of even from my time in South Carolina, I got visions of that I would reach the masses in a different way. I just felt this calling that mass communication wasn't actually going to be through journalism and news reporting. And, I was just okay, well, I love to write. I love journalism. So that's what I'm going to keep doing. But once I got on Instagram and I saw that there was just this large community online, but I didn't see a lot of people really coming together, I guess, offline. I mean, I'm sure it was definitely happening, but what I saw was a lot of people would have, we would have our Etsy shops, and maybe we were doing patterns, collaborations, and maybe, also selling the finished pieces. But I just was it just brought me back to my USC days of I wonder if people, want to meet up and not necessarily meet up online, because I just felt a lot of pressure, I guess, to make sure people really knew me and knew my story and understood me through my Instagram, and, trying to take the perfect picture and say the perfect thing. And I also was very, very interested and excited to meet other people, because for so long at this point, I had been knitting for probably well over 5 years and didn't really know other people who were fellow knitters or anything like that. And once I realized that there was community there, I really, really wanted to be a part of that. And the closest I was connected with it at the time was I was DMing with other knitters who I had found their Instagram pages, and they actually had really, really large followings. And so, we had been friends for, like I said, I got on Instagram in 2014. So right around 2016, I just kind of thought about it, and I was hey, I've actually never met you, Kelly. We talk every day, all day about yarn, and it grew into a friendship. We talked about life and our relationships, and I was really, really close friends with the OML co-founder, Kelly Brooks, and Nathan and Allison and Kathleen. And we had this great friendship and bond, and I loved their shops. And so I just went for it, and I was like, I'm just going to shoot my shot. And I just kind of put a call out, a mass DM to people and said, hey, what do you guys think of like meeting up with each other? I know I have some friends who I've never met. I know that they have some followers, I think, who would love to meet them, because people would kind of say that online, like, oh, it would be so cool to meet you. And I said, so, hey, like if you're interested, like, let me know. And ironically, the people who I was talking with and developing friendships with said, hey, yeah, I'll help you. Like we could try to do something like that. And so that's how our Maker Life came to be. We came up with the name, and we sent out emails to makers in the community and said, hey, if we orchestrated something, where would you want to have it? Because we actually all lived in different places all over the world. Like Kelly lives in Canada, and our other OML co-founder, Nathan, lives in the Virginia, DC area, and Kathleen's down in Texas. So we were like, where would you guys want us to host it? And New York City was the first vote for where we would have our first meetup. And it was just such a huge success. It wasn't a sold out arena worth of people, but the energy and the spirit that you experienced at OML, everyone felt the good vibes and they wanted to do it again. And the second that the event happened, I felt just so much peace and just full circle of, this is what you're supposed to be doing for the masses. Like, this is your calling. This is what you went to school for. This is why you've been learning editing and social media and writing and marketing. This is why you've been doing this. And I was just so excited, so very scared, but equally so excited. And I thought, okay, if it's just a one-hit wonder, that's cool. But we asked people like, well, what could we have done better? And they were like, you did everything fine, just make the next one bigger. So we went at it again. And so, yeah, our Maker Life was launched in 2016, and we have annual meetup events. And it's just been so thrilling and so exciting to have my story be a part of it and to really lean into my calling for community.
And what is an Our Maker Life event? In other words, okay, so I want to go, I get there. What kinds of activities are available? Is it like classes on particular techniques or stitches? Is it like lectures? Is it just like social lounge type setup, or what happens at one of these events?
So at its core, that's a great question. At its core, Our Maker Life is a networking and conferencing event. So we generally have had 2 keynote speakers, and they are fellow makers in the community, typically who are running their own small business. So we've had some amazing keynote speakers in the past. For our upcoming event, we're going to have 2 amazing speakers, one of them being Toni Lipsey, who is an amazing crocheter, businesswoman, community inspirationalist, and entrepreneur, and all of the things, as well as Shelly Martinez, who is an amazing designer and crafter as well. So we are really excited to have them, and we've always had amazing duos at our OML event. So it is primarily where we have keynote speakers to encourage and inspire on the small business angle. And then we also have representatives from big box yarn stores who also speak as well, because I know one of the things that I really wanted as an individual crafter was a way to get into the industry. It's like, how do you meet someone at Joann's? How do you meet someone at Lion Brand? And I knew that it existed because I could see some people doing pattern designing and things like that, but didn't know how to knock on those doors. And also felt a lot of like just anxiety and sort of intimidation around it. Like, why would they even want to collaborate with me? And so I knew it, because I was feeling that, others were probably feeling that as well. And we just had such immediate, it's just so kind of interesting to think about. But we had so much immediate support from big box brands like We Are Knitters, like Lion Brand Yarn, like Joanne and Michael's Crafts, who said, hey, how can we support you? How can we support your community? We're looking for, makers to work with, and we know that you guys are looking for us. And so this is just like a great tie, a great way to meet up with each other. So it's really been a core part of our events as well. And the sort of third core part of our event is to have a knit along, because I'm like, it's got to be all about the yarn and all about the knitting. So people bring their own whips. And as we're listening to our conversations, we'll knit throughout the day. But we also have a really big knit along as well. So it's a single day, 8-hour event with like I said, conversations. We also have a panel where we will have our keynote speakers, both on the small business and large business aspect, as well as the team sort of do like an open discussion Q&A. So people who want to ask anything, it's like a free for all. You can ask things that are business related, everything from business to social dynamics. So that's an OML event, and somehow it's 8 hours that always ends up feeling like 8 minutes.
Yeah, I bet. And so I know that, obviously event-based businesses had a lot of difficulty during the pandemic over these last 2 years. But you're coming back. And so tell us when the tickets will go on sale for the upcoming one, because it's coming up this summer in Portland.
Yes. So our upcoming OML event is going to be in Portland on July 23rd. And like you said, we're so excited. Obviously, with the pandemic, so many things came to a screeching halt. So this is actually a restart from our 2020 planned event. So we had actually sold out in 2019 in expectation of meeting up in Portland. All of our attendees who had planned from that will be there. And we've also, just being very cognizant of meeting up safely and things like that. But we have had the great opportunity to be able to open up an extended registration and additional seats. So, we're really excited about registration that's actually happening next week so that we can have some additional familiar faces at the event. And I'm very, very excited about it.
And one of the things that I've been consistently just so impressed with is your North Knits Instagram, as well as our Maker Life Instagram. And I wondered, these are accounts that, those accounts on Instagram where every photo is beautiful and it all matches. This photo matches the last one and the next one, and they all go together. They look, all of a kind, so thoughtful and artfully done. And so I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the Instagram strategy that you use and how you think about Instagram.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's such a great question. It's sometimes hard for me to admit, but I am a perfectionist at heart. So for my North Knits social media, it is a lot of that, which it's so interesting to just sort of step outside of yourself and see the perspective of how people view you versus how you view yourself. Because a lot of how I think about and structure my post was a little bit rigid and perfectionist, and people just leaned into it so much. And it was like, oh, it's so pretty. And I'm like, okay, good. But also I was like, just trying to not have it be wrong, I guess. But over the years of having my Instagram, my social media strategy is really to try to be genuinely me. And so that does include my perfectionist for just making sure, that knitting needle is placed just right, like I'm showing my stitches just right, but also to just showcase my personality. I've always loved neutral-based yarns and chunky yarns. So to be able to show that aesthetic and to have it feel like it's something that people can experience with me. So I love to show the yarn that I bought and show that off. And then as I'm making the piece, to just show a continuation of that. So like you said, it does have a very concise look and flow to it, that is purposeful, but also to show that knitting is a process. And there are definitely times where we, put our project down and then pick up another one. But I really like to show, the journey of making a piece that I'm working on from start to finish, because that's how it really is for me. And I love to make in the morning when I have my coffee and I have my good vibes going, I have my candles lit, I have my music going. And so I just really love to evoke that on my feed and in my stories. I'm able to get a little bit more casual and informal and comfortable on my stories to show people like where I live here in Chicago and how it is to be a maker in the city. And, to do some fun reels to show my finished sweater and how it looks on and things like that, or to show a finished scarf that I'm working on, as well as to support other crafters. I'd love to support indie yarn dyers and fellow pattern designers, and to just show how beautiful crafting is. And I certainly started from, 0 followers and an iPhone 5. So also a part of my strategy has been to just continue to grow and to keep trying, because I certainly didn't think that I had perfect, the most perfect high resolution photos when I first started. And I wanted to cry at times because I wanted that perfect photo. But it's always for me to just like keep trying, keep posting, keep sharing, and you'll look back on the journey and you'll see your growth, and you'll see how everything is beautiful, just, at its core and as it is. So to just be genuine, to be authentically myself, and to not be afraid to say what's on my mind. My captions are often around me just having a conversation, and saying, hey, this is what I'm watching on Netflix, or hey, this is how my heart is really heavy around this issue that's going on in the world, or, hey, how are you guys feeling, living amongst the global pandemic, and just having those. And also, while we're talking about it, here's this really cool chunky sweater that I'm working on. So, just I think to share, and that is so much of who I am and my story and what knitting has been to me, and also what I want to have been able to and always hope to evoke at OML events. And so the strategy with OML, while as founders, we are knitters and crocheters and pattern designers ourselves, it's also, we wanted to showcase the stories and the authenticity of other makers. So the strategy with that has always been to feature other makers. And, we often get compliments about how beautiful the feed is. And it's very, just thrilling to know that it's not much of anything that, we're doing outside of just featuring. Like, it just really shows that what we do in and of itself is beautiful, and it's diverse. So, we show everything from, fingering lace weight yarn to super chunky sweaters and funny reels to, calm, cool reels and stories and things like that. And it's just, it's a beautiful maker life. And that was the intent. And so it's really been an amazing journey to see and help unfold to the world.
And do you feel like your skills and years of experience working in journalism and broadcast journalism and print journalism, one of the things, and I do some journalism myself, and one of the things that you have to quickly overcome is cold calling people. People sometimes hang up. They don't want to talk to you, all of that kind of thing. You just have to kind of get over it and be like, just try calling the next one, try to get a quote from somebody, so you kind of just get over that a little bit. And you also, I think as a journalist, learn to do really good research, finding out how to get a hold of somebody, finding out what the backstory is on different things. So I wondered if some of those skills helped you as you were building our maker life to say, like, I can call, this brand and ask for this kind of partnership, or write this kind of pitch to show them what we have to offer and that kind of thing.
100%, Abby. That's such a great point. And absolutely. where I attended school at USC, I can remember one of the things that my professors always talked about was a prediction of just where journalism and mass communication and social media and technology would collide 10 years from the time. Mm-hmm. And they knew, they called it, I will say, mm-hmm. like they said it would be like this. And what they called it at the time was just like convergence journalism or convergence reporting. So I really learned and studied how to mix all of these different platforms together, because I learned like this is where the industry is going to be. So you will need to know all of these skills. And so I absolutely know that how I edit, how I connect that with a message and a vision, like you said, how I'm not afraid, like reporting. I've worked for news outlets like that have said like, yeah, your whole job is to go out on the street, get a one-man band interview. Don't come back until you have 3. And you got to walk up to people. You have to be bold and you have to be unafraid. And like you said, you have to be willing to put yourself out there as an entrepreneur and a business person and say, hey, this is what I bring to the table. And this is how I think we could make a great partnership, and being absolutely okay with hearing a no. Like right. You said, like closed doors and no thank yous and not right nows. Those are sometimes the things on the business and industry side that we don't want to hear. But I definitely have learned and gained so much experience in the last 10 or so years of really doing mass communications, of like, that's such a part of the journey and that's such a part of business. And for every no that you hear, you're gonna get to that yes. And sometimes I've heard yeses through running my businesses that have been very immediate. And I also have heard no's and not right nows. And even within myself, of when I want to do something, I've had to learn how to tell myself no and not right now. And, also having that business aspect of like turning down opportunities, when your cup is full. So I definitely feel like understanding branding and social media and just entrepreneurialism, especially from a social media and technology point, has been something that has been so useful because, as I'm sure you're probably experiencing as well, just technology and social media is moving so quickly. Like as soon as you get a handle on one aspect of it, another has been created. And we are now living in this world of, 5-second videos of capturing your audience. But it's been so exciting to see it. And also, it's really helped me as a businesswoman to go all in, because as a journalist, when you were looking for a job as a reporter, you would have to make these, tape to tape things where they were like on old school VHSs. But basically, ironically, what they would call them is reels. And, my professors and editors would be like, you got 30 seconds. That's how long you have to impress an editor or a news director. You can give them a 3-minute, whatever, but you have 30 seconds. And that's just been drilled and ingrained to me since I started studying my craft and my career. And so as I started to see social media and this convergence of arts and fiber and all of that happening and taking place online, it's really helped me to not be afraid of, knowing that I've got to create something that captures attention and, 10 seconds or less, and to be able to edit that. And already having so much experience with video editing is just really, really worked out in a helpful way for me. So it's definitely something, especially through OML at our events and through our blog and website. And again, also, utilizing my writing tools with that to encourage other people that, it's wonderful to have a love and a craft or love and passion for the craft as a hobby, but there are very, specific technical things that you can do if you want to take it the next level up and have it be a business. And that these may be things that you need to come to terms with or work on or, just become aware of when you want to run it as a business. And so to be able to share that information and also have other entrepreneurs in the business to be able to share that information to people who may not know it or who may be holding themselves back on it has been really exciting.
And you've been able to do a couple of other things. You wrote, self-published 2 books with Our Maker Life, and then more recently have a book. It's like a compilation book of patterns and stories that was published with Abrams in 2021. That's like an Our Maker Life book. And so I wondered if the experience of working with, Abrams is a pretty large mainstream publisher, was different for you than doing the self-publishing, if you felt like it was a worthwhile thing to do both, or really just, especially working with a mainstream publisher at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to give a little shout out to my co-founder, OML co-founder Kelly again, because she also has a photojournalism background from school. So, when we were in OML together, she was just like, man, I got to get this outlet out. Like, I got to lean into my photojournalism outlet. And so, we had gotten to talking and creating these books where we get a chance to feature makers, but to do writing and to do graphic layout and design and all that stuff. It really became like our baby and something that we became passionate about. But as publishing and the book industry is such it is very, very dynamic, and it's so many things that we became very new to once we dipped our toes into the publishing world. It was definitely very interesting, but definitely hard work. And so we did end up publishing 2 volumes featuring makers. And like you said, it's a showcase of, again, giving another media platform for makers to tell their stories of how they started their businesses, or how they started in knitting and crochet or weaving or yarn dyeing as a hobby, and to also share patterns, because like that is, we're all about our patterns, whether we're designing them ourselves or buying them from other makers. So we really wanted to showcase that in our books. But self-publishing is a lot of hard work. So having the opportunity to be able to publish with Abrams, which, like you said, is a large publishing house, and to have that support and also that technical skill was absolutely worthwhile, to really be able to be a communication peg with the makers that we were featuring, and sort of lean back into that of like, okay, how do you want to tell your story? This is how you can get the best picture, of your yarn or the sweater, or whatever piece it is that you're designing, and to really just be able to think about, again, OML's our core mission, but to have such a supportive team that's like, okay, you can focus on that, and then we'll focus on, the layout. We'll help you with the tech editing. We'll help you with making sure that it cohesively tells a story. Mm-hmm. Just an amazing experience. It took about 2 years for our book, which is aptly called the Our Maker Life book. So it features approximately 30 makers and pattern designers, and again, their stories and their patterns. And it took about 2 years to publish the book, but it was so absolutely worth it. And I'm so excited to be with the Abrams family, especially alongside some other wonderful businesses and brands in the industry as well, who are also with the Abrams team. So they really understand craft and how to tell that story from a publishing aspect.
And how do you balance, before we get to your recommendations, how do you balance all of these things? So you have these book projects that you're working on. I know you're doing a project with the Crafters Box, which is a subscription program for crafters, and then obviously planning these online, content as well as in-person event coming up. And you have a day job, which is important to you as well. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on how you structure your day or structure your week so that you can do all of the things that make you happy.
Oh, that's such a great question, Abby, and thank you. Yeah, I definitely have given myself grace to realize I don't have to have it all figured out. Where I used to try to figure out, okay, like what's my plan and strategy to balance and live. And especially in the last 2 years, I feel like it's like just survive day at a time. But I guess from a more technical standpoint, I am a big planner. So I've got about 3 calendars. So we're definitely like just taking time out of the day, just setting an hour or two aside to write down. Sunday is my day of where I'm looking at my week ahead. I've really learned a lot from reading different business books and things like that, of just like planning ahead is absolutely essential. If you don't get to everything on your to-do list or your planner that day or that week or that month, that's okay. But you need to plan it out. And it not only does that help you in your productivity, but it helps you to have a holistic view of like, okay, what am I not doing? What is constantly just sitting on my task list and why? And then can I let that go? So that was a big one for me because I'm a big visionary and obviously a person who has, for most of my life, whether it be through college or running my businesses, I've always been doing a lot of things. That's just been my story. And, sometimes as a visionary, you got this idea, and you need a team, but you also have to be able to kind of reel that in yourself. So I've had a lot of ideas with my businesses that I wanted to do, but when I see them on my task list or I see those, emails just hanging, I'm like, okay, maybe I need to put this down or just let it go so that I can be more productive on the things that I'm within capacity to handle. So yeah, definitely planning, just setting structured time aside to, okay, I know in the mornings I'm going to get up, I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I'm going to spend an hour or 2 hours answering emails. And then I'm going to reward myself by knitting on my, knitting the sleeves of my sweater because, that's my time to jam out. Or treat myself by going to a local yarn store and, looking at some beautiful yarn. Or me, I look and buy. So I definitely indulge. But I think just giving yourself permission to know that, you need to see what you're doing, but it's okay if you don't get to everything has definitely been a big help for me within my productivity. Also, what has been essential for me, especially in the last 2 years, I've had the pleasure of being able to work remote. So definitely not having to have that commute pegged in my day.
That's been huge for so many people.
Huge. Yeah, because and it's so interesting how so many people didn't realize it. Like I literally have an extra 2 days.
Right.
2 hours in my day.
Right. No, 100%. Where you're actually able to spend that time doing something else. Rather than sitting in the car or public transportation, 100%. So that's great.
So being able to be remote has been great, but it's also both challenged me and allowed me this great opportunity to really lean into self-care, probably more so than I have ever in my life. In the last 2 years, I'm like, no, I'm not going to go full steam trying to do everything and please everyone until I burn out and I don't invest back in myself. So I really, I love to do yoga. I love to exercise. I love to go out and walk to the lake near my house or go walk to the beach near my house. I like to take time to play with my kitten, go have a good meal with friends, take time to just turn on some nice music and cook myself a good meal. I didn't realize how important and essential those things were, especially living in a big city of 3 million that literally didn't stop, until the pandemic hit. And it was crazy. It's just like, I didn't even really see how fast I was moving. And then, you kind of wonder like, why am I so burnt out? But really just leaning into being still, being quiet, and reinvesting in my, I like to think of it of just like, just that good energy, whether you view that as like a feminine energy of reinvesting back in yourself, just leaning into that has been so helpful for me in being, productive in my businesses. And that's really how I can, for me, I think that's how I am able to juggle it all, because I have the energy. I
Right.
have the focus to be able to do it. And I know that, hey, if I dedicate this time, I'm going to reward myself. I'm not going to put myself down. I'm not going to judge myself that it's 6:30 and I didn't get to everything on my task list. No, I'm going to celebrate the wins that I did do. And then I'm going to, go do some yoga or go have a mimosa with my best friends here in the city. But really just being able to slow down. And it's something that I really shared a lot on North Knits and even through OML in the last 2 years, because I think it's something that a lot of other people didn't realize either, of just how fast, whether you live in a small town or, a large city, or you have a big family, or if it's just you, we really move really fast. And, I'm like, hey, knitting is such a slow craft.
I know. And that's what brought you to knitting in the first place, was community and also that sense of mental well-being and unwinding. So you always have to stay connected to that. And that's amazing. So I want to get to your recommendations, because you have some really good ones. So you have a book to recommend, and I've never heard of this book. I haven't read it. It's called A Court of Thrones and Roses by Sarah Maas.
Yes, I am really indulging, and I was going to say journaling and reading books has also been a great outlet for me, to where I can have that work-life productivity and balance. So I'm about halfway through this book right now. It's a fiction series, and it's full of magical kingdom and wolves. So it's a cool little fiction story, and I really like that sort of fantasy fiction, magical Game of Thrones type vibe, and that's really where the story is going. So I'm still currently reading it, and this is the first book in the series, but it's definitely a page turner, and it's full of magic and fantasy, and just a really well written book. It also has like some YA fantasy vibes to it as well. I'm really loving it, and it's a nice mind easer from reading all the
total escape from reality.
I
that's
totally
good.
Just indulge and have just like a total, just like I said, mind ease.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also wanted to recommend our Maker Life Network, which is a community online that's connected to our Maker Life, but it's free. Anyone who wants to can sign up, it sounds like. And it's not on Facebook. So it's like a Facebook group, but you don't have to be on Facebook to be part of this.
Yeah, and I need to shout out Gen Z, because Gen Z is they're taking social media and community to new levels. And I've been seeing a lot of these community networks, platforms, which, it's not quite like a blog, but it's not quite just social media either. And that's, what these platforms are. So this is one of the platforms is where the OML Community Network is based. So it is an online virtual platform, but it's a hub of where you can, have your own profile and bio and share your favorite crafts and your website and your shops and all of that, much like you would on social media. But there are also community threads. So we can, there's a thread for, book lovers. There's a thread for if you are an early bird riser, and you can share what you're working on, at 6 a.m. in the morning. There is a thread where you can talk about business and entrepreneurialism, because that, again, is such a core part of our OML events, and people love to continue that conversation much long after the events are over. So the OML network is a community-based hub where, again, you can have a social profile and share that, but it's a specific hub within a community. So it's free to join, and you really get this way of where you can talk to other people just in a little bit more of a niche space. It's not, it's not the metaverse.
Right. Is it built on Mighty Networks or?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
And then you also wanted to recommend a bottom-up seamless sweater that's designed by Andrea Mowry that you're working on, the Weekender sweater.
Yes. New fave sweater ever. I'm currently on Sleeve Island, and it's so funny. I was like, I'm totally not gonna get on Sleeve Island. Like, I've been whizzing through my sweater, but I am on Sleeve Island. So yes, this is my first bottom-up sweater that I've ever knit, but I absolutely love it. It's one of Andrea Mowry's most popular sweater patterns. It uses a beautiful worsted weight yarn. I think the recommended yarn that she uses for it is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, but I actually am using a beautiful worsted weight yarn by Spin Cycle Yarn called Wololo Dream State. So it has very vibrant colors in it, and so you get like this really just mix of like Fair Isle look without having to do, I guess, like Fair Isle knitting. But yes, it is a seamless, made in the round, bottom up worsted weight sweater with this beautiful open boat neck collar with ribbing on the bottom and then ribbing on the top. You get to indulge in some really cool short row work and also making knitting in the round, but basically inside out, because it actually features a stockinette or reverse stockinette stitch with this wonderful purled seamless faux seam is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, it is a beautiful sweater. I absolutely see why it's so popular. I had the chance to meet Andrea at an event that I went to, and she is such an amazing person. And so many people at the event were wearing all of her designs. So I was like, okay, I am on, I'm hip now. I'm hip to the game. So I told her, I was like, when I get back home, I'm going to go look for one of your patterns and make it. And so I'm so happy that I came across this one. It really is a beautifully designed sweater. And like I said, I'm currently halfway through my first sleeve, but so ready to finish it so I can start another one. I'm like, I gotta hurry up, and then I gotta get my Brooklyn Tweed yarn too, so I can start making my second one. But yeah, it's some really, really fun techniques that you get to indulge in the sweater. So I'm having so much fun with it. Definitely recommend it if you're up for those mindless points in a sweater where you can knit in the round and totally like just Netflix and chill out. That's so much about it, and I love it.
Well, Jewell, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you so much, Abby, for the opportunity. Please stay connected with myself at North Knits on Instagram. My team and I are also at Our Maker Life on Instagram. That's ourmakerlife.org. Again, you can directly join our virtual community there. And I know I'll be seeing many who are probably tuning into this podcast at the event on July 23rd in Portland, Oregon on the West Coast. So thank you so much, Abby, for this opportunity to share my story with you.
And you've been listening to the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg.
Burnett International will identify which steps are needed to prepare for the growth your business is capable of. We successfully guide our partners through all stages of product development, sourcing, and manufacturing. We are offering you a free business diagnostic session. Sign up at bernetintl.com/promo or email us at fabricteam@burnettinternational.com. Let's make a plan today.
Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals. When you become a member of Craft Industry Alliance, you get in-depth coverage of craft industry news, the opportunity to connect with fellow professionals for advice and support, and access to an educational library filled with ideas, tools, and resources to help you as you build your business. Join us at craftindustrｙalliance.org. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.